All right, so we're diving into 5G today. I know you've been wanting to get into this one for a while now. You've given me like a stack of articles and podcasts.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of buzz around it.
For sure, and I think a lot of people hear 5G and they're like, okay, yeah, faster internet, cool, but they don't really get like what's actually going on under the hood.
Right.
So for this deep dive, we're going to use a podcast script called How to Talk About 5G Technology in English.
Okay.
From the podcast, English Unlocked. So they start off with a pretty standard definition. Like 5G is the 5th generation of wireless technology offering faster speeds and more reliable connections. Which, that makes sense. But when they say it's like 100 times faster than 4G, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Like, what does that actually look like,
Yeah, for sure. Well, imagine downloading like a whole movie in just a few seconds.
Oh, wow.
Instead of, waiting like 5 or 10 minutes, or streaming like super high-def video on a bunch of devices at once.
Okay, yeah.
With zero buffering.
Okay. No lag.
No lag. And for, people who are into gaming, imagine like real-time gaming with virtually no lag.
Oh, that would be a game changer.
Right.
Literally. So it sounds like we're talking about not just faster downloads, but like a totally different level of responsiveness.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, they also mentioned something called latency, and I always get this mixed up with like bandwidth.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking about it right, if like speed is like how wide the data highway is, latency is like the speed limit, right?
That's a really good way to put it, yeah. Latency is basically that delay between when you like do something online and when you see a response. So like, think about if you're playing, an online game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of lag. You click something, and then like a second later, it happens on screen.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
That's high latency. But with 5G, the latency is super low. It's almost instantaneous.
So it's not just that things download faster. It's that everything just kind of happens like that snaps fingers. Now, what I found really interesting is that they emphasize that 5G isn't just about, faster phones. Yeah. It's really about creating like whole ecosystems.
Yeah, for sure.
Like they talk about smart cities.
Right.
So it's not just about me having like a smart thermostat in my apartment.
Right.
We're talking about like the whole city becoming like a network.
Exactly, yeah. So think about like smart traffic management systems.
Okay.
They can use real-time data from all the connected cars.
Oh, wow.
To like reduce congestion and make things safer.
That's wild. So instead of just having like a few smart devices in my home, the whole city becomes like one giant smart home.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. They also talk about the impact on autonomous vehicles.
Yes.
Which, everyone's talking about self-driving cars these days.
Yeah.
But they rely on sensors and AI to get around.
Right.
So I guess 5G would allow them to like talk to each other.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And not just to each other. They can talk to like traffic lights.
Oh, wow.
Or, other infrastructure around them.
That's incredible. So 5G is like the missing piece that makes all these futuristic ideas actually possible.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's starting to feel like we're living in a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? It's pretty exciting.
It is. And then there's the whole thing about the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
Or IoT.
Yeah, IT.
Right, which is like all these devices, everything from your fridge to like your fitness tracker, all talking to each other, sharing data.
Exactly, yeah. And 5G can like handle all that data.
So my house could actually become like truly smart, like everything working together behind the scenes.
Right, exactly.
But before we get too carried away dreaming about the future, maybe we should pause for a second and make sure we're all speaking the same language here.
Okay.
Because they have a whole section on key vocabulary for talking about 5G technology. And I think it might be good to do a little like terminology check.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Jargon can be a little overwhelming sometimes.
Totally. Especially in the tech world, it's like they're speaking a different language.
It really is.
So let's make sure we're all on the same page.
So let's start with like network, which basically means like a system of connected devices that can share data. So it's kind of like a giant web that allows your phone to talk to your computer or your car or even your smart refrigerator.
Oh, so it's like the nervous system of the digital world. Okay, that makes sense. What about bandwidth? I feel like I hear that term thrown around all the time, but I'm never really sure if I totally understand what it means.
Yeah. Bandwidth is like the capacity of the network to transmit data. You can think about it like a highway. The wider the highway, the more cars can travel on it at the same time. So higher bandwidth means more data can flow through the network at the same time, which leads to faster speeds and smoother performance.
Okay, so 5G is like upgrading from a 2-lane road to a 12-lane superhighway.
Exactly, yeah.
Got it. And we talked about latency earlier, like the time it takes for data to travel. So then we've got the Internet of Things, or IoT. They define it as like a network of connected devices that can communicate and share data. So it's like 5G and IoT are kind of a power couple, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. 5G's low latency and high bandwidth are essential for handling all the massive amounts of data that's created by all these connected devices.
Yeah.
In the IoT world. So just imagine like a world where your lights and your appliances and your security system, they're all talking to each other, optimizing energy use, like
Yeah.
anticipating your needs. I mean, that's the power of 5G and IoT working together.
Yeah, that's pretty wild to think about. Okay, so then there's also smart cities, which I guess is like taking the smart home concept to a whole other level, right?
Yeah, exactly. Smart cities are using technology to like improve the quality of life for residents in a whole bunch of different ways. So we're talking about things like smart traffic management systems to reduce congestion, connected public transportation, and sensors that monitor things like air quality and noise pollution. And 5G is like the glue that holds all of these different systems together. It allows them to communicate with each other and work together seamlessly.
So it's not just about the individual devices being smart, it's about like the entire city becoming like a living, breathing network.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so then autonomous vehicles, everybody's talking about self-driving cars.
Right.
They rely on sensors and artificial intelligence to navigate, but they also need to communicate with each other and with like the infrastructure around them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where 5G's super low latency and high bandwidth become like really, really important.
Yeah.
Because they allow all these autonomous vehicles to share data in real time, which helps them make like split-second decisions, avoid collisions, and navigate all those like complex environments really safely and efficiently.
So 5G is what's going to finally make self-driving cars a reality.
It is, yeah.
Okay, and then lastly, they have infrastructure, which is basically like the physical systems that support 5G, like cell towers and antennas and all those fiber optic cables. It seems like there's a lot more to 5G than just what we see on our phones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, building the infrastructure to support 5G is a massive undertaking, and it's actually one of the biggest challenges that we face with the rollout of this technology.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered like the key terms now, but
Yeah.
Knowing the words is one thing, but I think truly understanding 5G means understanding like its impact, right?
Yeah.
So the source material also has this section called phrases for talking about 5G technology, which I think could be helpful for having like more nuanced conversations about 5G.
Right.
So let's dive into that a little bit. Let's start with like how 5G could change the game in something like healthcare, for instance.
Okay. So they suggest using phrases like 5G will revolutionize industries like healthcare, transportation, and entertainment.
Yeah.
And they specifically talk about 5G's potential in things like remote robotic surgery,
Oh, wow.
where a surgeon could operate on a patient from miles away
Wait, really?
using a 5G-powered robotic arm that provides like real-time feedback and control. So you can imagine like the possibilities for providing specialized care to remote areas or even like responding to emergencies in disaster zones.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing. Like it's something out of like a futuristic medical drama.
I know, right?
And I guess with 5G's low latency, it could be done with the same precision as if the surgeon was right there in the operating room.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's also the potential for like AI-assisted diagnostics, where 5G could enable rapid analysis of like medical images and data
Okay, yeah.
so that doctors can make faster, more accurate diagnoses.
So it's not just about convenience, it's about like potentially saving lives.
It is, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so 5G isn't just about, life-saving applications in healthcare. It's also going to revolutionize entertainment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they talk about phrases like 5G will revolutionize entertainment by allowing us to experience immersive virtual and augmented reality like never before. Like imagine attending a live concert, from the comfort of your own home, but feeling like you're actually there in the crowd.
Yeah.
Thanks to like a 5G powered VR headset.
Exactly.
Or like how about interactive gaming experiences where the virtual and real worlds like blend together?
Yeah, augmented reality.
Augmented reality. That's pretty cool.
It is.
But, it can't all be fun and games.
Right.
Like we need to be realistic about the potential downsides of 5G as well.
Yeah.
And the source material actually has a section on discussing challenges,
Okay.
which I think is good because we need to bring in a little bit of like critical thinking here.
Absolutely.
So like, what are some of the things that we need to be aware of?
Well, for one thing, building all that infrastructure we talked about, it's really expensive.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
And not all areas, even have access to 5G yet.
That's true.
And that could actually make the digital divide even worse.
Oh, right. So while some people are like, enjoying all the benefits of super fast internet and all that, other people are being left behind.
Yeah,
That's definitely a problem.
it is. And then there are also concerns about like security of the 5G networks. With somebody that's connected, it's really, really important to make sure that the network is protected from like cyber attacks and data breaches.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like every time there's some new technological advancement, there's always like a whole new set of challenges that come with it.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's really great that this, the source material is encouraging us to actually think critically about 5G. Not just accept all the hype at face value.
Right.
And they even have a whole section on sharing opinions, which I think could be really helpful in, navigating all these complex issues.
Absolutely. It's important to have like open and honest discussions about the implications of 5G and how it's going to, affect our world.
Yeah, for sure. So they suggest using phrases like, I think 5G will transform the way we live and work, or the potential of 5G is exciting, but we need to address like privacy concerns.
Right.
So it's about finding that balance between, embracing the possibilities and also being aware of the potential risks.
Exactly.
I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, for me, I think it really comes down to responsible development and deployment.
Yeah.
5G has the potential to be like a huge force for good, but we need to make sure that it's being used ethically and responsibly and that everybody benefits from it. Not just a select few.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to use it, and what kind of future we want to build with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, but it's important to, acknowledge all the complexities so we can have a well-rounded view of 5G. And you know what? They even point out some common mistakes people make when talking about it, like confusing 5G with 5 gigahertz.
Oh, right.
Which is a Wi-Fi frequency, which, to be honest, I've totally done that before.
Yeah, it's an easy mistake to make.
It is. But it just shows how important it is to use the right words so we don't, like, totally confuse people.
For sure. And they also talk about how it's important to, like, explain the jargon, and not just throw a bunch of techie words at people.
Yeah, because nobody wants to feel like they're reading a technical manual.
Exactly.
It's about making sure everyone can follow along.
Right. We've all been in those conversations where someone's just like using all these fancy terms and you're just like, what are you talking about?
Totally. Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of breaking things down in this deep dive.
Yeah, I think so.
We've covered a lot of ground. We talked about the basics, like what 5G actually is, and then we got into all the crazy potential benefits and the challenges too.
Yeah, and we even learned how to talk about it, like confidently and without sounding like a robot.
Exactly. But I think the key takeaway here is that 5G is way more than just faster downloads.
Right.
It's a technology that has the power to like revolutionize entire industries and connect communities in a way that we've never seen before.
It really does. It's pretty exciting to think about all the possibilities.
It is. But as with any powerful technology, we have to be thoughtful about how we use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make sure that it's being used for good.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up, I'd love to hear, like, what are you most excited about when it comes to the future of 5G?
That's a good question. I think for me, what's really exciting is the potential for 5G to help bridge the digital divide.
Yeah.
Like bringing the benefits of connectivity to communities that haven't had access to it before.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing.
Like empowering people all around the world. But I also think about the potential downsides too. Like making sure we develop and deploy it responsibly, thinking about privacy and security.
Yeah, it's finding that balance, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Making sure the benefits outweigh the risks.
Well said. Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive into the world of 5G.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it has. It's been great exploring all this with you. And a huge thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this journey. Remember, this is just the start of the conversation. Keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep asking questions. Until next time, stay curious.